Hi there, Pat Croce here, and thank you for joining me today. This is the American Cancer Society's HEALED Community Gathering. HEALED stands for Health and Energy Through Active Living Every Day. Now, there's a lot of powerful words in that meaning of HEALED. Health and energy, that's mind, body, and spirit, through active living. That means moving, getting off the couch every day. No Sundays off, whether you're mowing the lawn, shoveling the walk, vacuuming the rugs, washing the dishes, cleaning the windows, helping around the house at work. It's moving all those muscles God gave you and not letting them rust. You rest it, you rust it. You rest when the doctor says to rest, but when the doctor says you're okay, move. And that's what HEALED is all about, movement. And we have the movement going right now with you and me. Thanks to 6ABC, our media sponsor, our leadership partners, which are about 30 individuals who ponied up a lot of money, almost $2 million, so that the HEALED research in Atlanta at ACS headquarters under Dr. Erica Rees-Punia is underway with 400 survivors of cancer, a variety of diagnoses, and seeing how activity affects them. And what can we do with that activity, meaning on the internet, so that you have access all the time at the push of a button. That's what HEALED is all about. I also like to thank each and every one of you viewing today, and those of you who've joined us on our movement, in our movement, as our movement, and wear this bracelet, this beautiful black lava bead bracelet with the one green bead. It's here somewhere. There it is. That's you and me together. Just go to acshealed.com. Make a donation. I don't care if it's $5, $500, 5 winks, doesn't matter. We just want you part of the plan. And the plan is to inform, to educate, to inspire, to entertain, and to activate people so that they don't suffer. Whether you have cancer or been touched by someone who has had cancer, suffering occurs when we leave the present moment, when we leave right now. And I'm going to take you into the now with our moment of stillness. I'm going to ring this little bell, and I want you to lovingly place your awareness, your attention on the bell in this present moment. Yes. That's the doorbell to our ACS HEALED community gathering. Leave your baggage on the front porch. Don't worry, it'll be there when you get done. An hour from now, it's always there. But right now, no stress, no worry, no angst, no resentment, no regret. You are with us right now. And we have an enjoyable show lined up for you today. Our specialist starting the show is Dr. Alix Seif. Dr. Seif is the attending physician at the Blood and Marrow Transplantation and the Hematologic Malignancy section of the Division of Oncology at Children's Hospital, Philadelphia. Well, she's a doctor at CHOP, and she deals with children that have malignancies due to cancer. All that other stuff, it's a mouthful. And Dr. Seif saved me here.
Good morning, Pat. That was great. And really, I should just have in the bio leukemia and bone marrow transplant. That says it all in way fewer words.
Well, thank you for joining us. I got to tell you of this. This is our 38th gathering, and you're the first pediatric oncologist that we have on. I'm pretty sure, especially someone who specializes in leukemia. So why don't you share with me and our members exactly how you got on this path?
I would be delighted. I'm just really honored and excited to be here. So I do think that, at least in my experience, it was seeing young children who were undergoing cancer therapy, who were living their lives every day and doing every day. That was my inspiration. So very briefly, when I was a medical student in Portland, Oregon, I very vividly remember the moment that the idea of becoming a pediatric oncologist came into my mind.
Okay, stop right there. That's it. This is good. Normally, I can't get doctors or specialists to give me that moment. Take us quietly. I don't like to go to the past, but now we are going to go to the past with our present image of you being a student physician, was it? And now
Yes.
the moment where you got the aha.
So I was standing in the oncology unit as a medical student, and there is a central series of rooms where you couldn't quite see what was going to be coming around the hall. And I remember hearing clap, 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 and I thought, who's coming down the hall? And around the corner comes this little girl, maybe 6 years old, no hair, pink dress, bright pink feather boa, wearing heeled shoes that were, too big for her, clomping around the halls. And the image and the idea of this little girl who was going through what many of us think of as the worst and most serious kind of treatment that you can have, was just in the hallway being a little girl. And the resilience of that child in that moment really spoke to me about how special this population of people is. And I just needed to be a part of that. So that was my moment. Just a little girl.
And what did you do at that moment?
So it really was just sort of the first inkling I had that this was an area that I really wanted to be a part of, to be surrounded by people that were demonstrating such resilience in the moment. And
did you have another plan prior to that moment?
I had thought about genetics and neurology, all these sort of very academic, and I loved the puzzling and the problem solving of those fields. But I think what was frustrating about both genetics and neurology was that often the problem happens, it's up to the teams to figure out what the problem is, but sometimes there's not really a treatment or a way to fix and help. And I thought that the ability to still puzzle out diagnostic challenges with oncology while being able to treat and support children and their families, that had a lot of appeal for me. So that was a flip.
So all of a sudden you make a left turn?
Yeah. I mean, as a medical student, I wasn't committed to anything at the point, but in my head, I made a left turn. And it did sort of change how I set up, my final rotations. And then as I was going through my training in pediatrics, then I really started to narrow in on oncology.
Well, take us into, how did pediatric leukemia become the focus?
So I have another moment there, like a sort of switch flipping. I liked leukemia. I liked blood cancers. I think it's an interesting concept that, the cancer is in the blood, and the blood goes to every part of your body. And so, the challenge of supporting people who can have effects from the leukemia and effects from the treatment in every part of their body was appealing to me.
You are a puzzle solver, aren't you?
I like puzzles. A lot of us who go into medicine like to solve puzzles. And we like a challenge. When I was a first-year oncology fellow, meaning I'd finished my pediatrics training and was just starting to learn how to be specifically an oncologist, one of my first two patients was an infant with leukemia. His type of leukemia was AML, or acute myeloid leukemia, which we may hear about in the second half. And he was this just terrific baby, just this robust guy with a lot of personality. Unfortunately, his leukemia came back really quickly after he was diagnosed. And, I was brand new, had never seen anything like this. We tried additional treatments and they weren't working, and the leukemia was just not going away. And, we were working on supporting this baby and his parents through this horrible experience, horrible outcome. And while he was in the hospital getting treatments, he developed a very serious infection of his skin. And it's a type of infection that when your blood counts are very low, either from leukemia or from the treatments, the body is vulnerable to this type of infection. He was a tough guy and survived the infection and got over the infection. And we started to notice that his counts were coming up and his blood counts were normalizing. And, that wasn't what I was expecting. And we looked in his bone marrow with a test and we didn't see any leukemia. And what had happened was this infection had pushed his immune system to be on high alert for bad things. In this case, the trigger was to be on high alert for an infection. But the side effect was that his own immune cells were able to find his abnormal leukemia cells and kill them.
Wow.
And that blew my mind, the power of the body to be able to do that. So that got me hooked on immune system and using the immune system to treat leukemia, either through, at the time, all we really had was bone marrow transplant. So that was really the moment I knew that bone marrow transplant was what I needed to do. And then, of course, over time, we've gotten more skilled at manipulating the immune system to do targeted immune therapies. And so that's sort of how I ended up in my clinical area, is leukemia and bone marrow transplant.
And your curiosity and creativity and that puzzle analytical mind of yours has taken you into research as well?
That's right. So I started out in the lab. I worked with a fairly famous immune therapy doctor named Steve Grupp, who's at CHOP. And initially, I was trying to sort of mimic what the immune system does when it sees an infection by giving a drug that wasn't an infection, but was seen by the immune system to rev it up. And we got pretty good at curing leukemia in mice. Interestingly, so my background was actually in population studies and epidemiology, which I know more and more people know about epidemiology, unfortunately, because of recent events. But at the time, I had gone into the lab, and then there was an epidemiology, there was more epidemiology developing in our group at CHOP. And it occurred to me that we could study this phenomenon of significant infections and how they impacted leukemia at the population level. And it would sort of parallel what we did with what we were working on in the lab. And I had gotten, some early grants from foundations. But when I tried to put these two ideas together, this mouse work and this population work, it was really hard for a lot of funding agencies to get their heads around. Like most review panels only do lab or only do epidemiology. But my mentor, Dr. Grupp, encouraged me to apply to the American Cancer Society. And sure enough, the review panel was very open-minded and was able to see this connection and provided my first sort of big career grant, which was...
When was this?
What was that?
When was this?
This was 2010, I think, 2009 to 2010.
And how did this, Dr. Seif, how did this grant unfold into your research, and what were the results?
So it was a major impact on my career and my life, because, in order to advance in academics, to get to the next level, you have to show that you are doing research and that you are creating projects that funding agencies think are worthy. And so even just having the grant allowed me to stay on and continue doing what I needed to do. The funding itself supported multiple papers. So we continued the work in the mice. We made some discoveries for a different type of leukemia, ALL, or acute lymphoid leukemia, that helped us to understand that this treatment may not work so much in the upfront setting, but maybe could work in the after transplant setting, and that supported development of a clinical trial. In the population work, interestingly, we're hoping to publish this in the next year. We were able to show that having a significant infection while getting treated for AML can lower the chances of experiencing a relapse.
So that little baby still has an impact on you.
That little baby every day still has an impact on me.
That's amazing. So have there been any discoveries based on the research that you're conducting?
So yes, I think so. I mean, I think we have an understanding now of where this immune stimulation, where in treatment this immune stimulation is most likely to be effective. There was a clinical trial that had developed, I didn't develop it myself, but some collaborators of ours used the information that we provided to put this into a clinical trial. Unfortunately, the clinical trial was a little bit slow to pick up patients, I think because at the time the CAR T cells were really blowing up, and rightfully so. They are such a powerful tool. But I still think that we are going to be able to use this information, particularly in people who've had bone marrow transplants, to try and prevent relapses after transplant.
That's beautiful. So give me some detail on what is this Graft-versus-Leukemia team at CHOP? What is that exactly?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this is a new-ish program. In the past 2-3 years or so, we have, over time, and when our leukemia and bone marrow transplant teams were first created, the communication, it was different people, everybody was sort of focused on their own thing. It was a little bit siloed, if people know that term, where people were just sort of doing their own thing. And there was a lot of miscommunication. There were delays in getting kids back and forth between the two groups because of lack of communication. And it really just took somebody who was interested in both showing up at both meetings and being that bridge and that link. And I, sort of out of naivete, just sort of started to fill that role and started to bring the two groups together. And then finally we decided to create a formal team of transplant experts and leukemia experts who come together. We review every single referral that comes to us to make sure that every child is getting the same care, that all the experts agree on the best approach for a particular child or young adult patient. We are creating clinical standards. We are bringing in new clinical trials and new therapies so that our patients have access to them. Our goal here is really to make sure that we are practicing consistently, fairly, that if you happen to see Dr. Jones, you're not going to get this treatment. Whereas if, your appointment had been the next day and you saw Dr. Patel, you would get a completely different treatment. We really want consistency, use of the published literature to make sure we're making the best decisions. Where there isn't published literature, we rely on expert opinions and consensus, making sure that everybody agrees on what
So, Dr. Seif, are you telling me that CHOP, Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, in Children's Hospital Philadelphia, is the only one that has this Graft-versus-Leukemia team? There was no best practices somewhere else where you could steal the idea?
I think there's a lot of variability. The way it developed at CHOP was pretty homegrown and
Well, it sounds
organic.
organic, but it appears like there was nothing else going with these different silos where leukemia is here, transplants over here, and the two shall never mix.
I think that's fairly common. And, I've talked with other transplanters around the country, and they are, I wouldn't say that this didn't exist anywhere. I don't know that, but I've talked to some people at some very prestigious, famous, world-class centers who are looking to this model to try and develop
Your
something.
model.
Our model, a model like ours, yes.
Yeah, beautiful. That's wonderful. Now, have you done any papers, since you are a researcher, any papers on the effects of the graft-versus-leukemia team, like this merging of brain power?
That's a great question. I haven't thought to write that up. I do think that we are spreading the word informally, but maybe it is worth looking into. I hadn't thought of it as being so novel, but that's
Well, you even said that there was nothing out when you looked at the research that demonstrated to you what you could have done, except Dr. Bridge went to both meetings and bridged the gap between. I just think it's wonderful that your curiosity and creativity is helping to create new discoveries and treatment plans for the children of the world.
I'm a really firm believer in communication and the value of communication. That's such a simple intervention, but it can really achieve so much. And whether that's communication between teams, like we do with the GVL group, or brainstorming and working on ways to convey information, so much of what we do is it's complicated, but the concepts can be understood if you have patience and you have someone who takes a minute to really kind of explain and work with families, patients, and their caregivers to get what's going on. Because if you understand why we are recommending X, Y, or Z treatment or supportive care, you're much more likely to buy in and want to do it, even if it's hard to do. But if you don't understand why, and it's just somebody that you don't know with an MD telling you what to do, I mean, I get it. My instinct would be to be like, this is really hard. I don't want to do this, and I don't get why I have to do this.
So let's stay there. Let's stay there, Dr. Seif, because that's perfect. And you're a great communicator. What insights and input would you give those out there who have children with leukemia?
So I do think caregivers, parents and other caregivers of children with leukemia and other tumors are probably better at seeking out information, getting multiple opinions, doing reading and research than some adults who are diagnosed. I think it's easier to be an advocate for your child or grandchild or someone that you're responsible for. But it's not everybody. And I would encourage people to be empowered, to ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask again. Say, you've explained this to me, but I need you to explain it until I understand it. Don't be afraid. If there are questions or there's uncertainty around a diagnosis or our best treatment, ask for a second opinion. Your medical team wants, I have to go home and live with the medical decisions I make, but I'm still a step removed from what happens to my patients. And it doesn't hurt my feelings. I want the patients and the caregivers that I'm charged with supporting and caring for to feel as comfortable with the decisions as they can. It's not realistic to think that it's going to be 100%, but we want to make sure that you're not having lingering questions. Should I have, did we not ask all the right questions?
That's beautiful. Truly, for you to open up that way to your patients and to their caregivers, to let them know that you're not going to be hurt if they go get a second opinion. And what questions are just wrestling out there in your mind that need to be answered. I just think that's great. And you're answering all my questions so succinctly and clearly that I know more about leukemia today than I ever did. Now, I'm going to ask you don't go anywhere. Just sit over there on the bench, and because I'm going to bring you back on after our next guest. Thank you, Dr. Seif.
Thank you.
And our next guest is a unique character. I said in a tweet earlier this week, it gives me an honor to bring on Kennith Allen Thomas because his heart cannot fit in a wheelbarrow. And I'm going to let him tell you why. Kennith Thomas, come on.
What's going on, Pat?
You look sharp, my brother. You look good.
Hey, man, I try to stay fly.
So, Kenny, tell us your story and that of Kristian's.
Yeah, so by trade, I am a dancer, choreographer for nearly 20 years. Now a leadership coach. I actually transitioned into being a leadership coach a little under 3 years ago as Kristian was diagnosed with leukemia in our fight and battle with him.
Okay, stay there, Kenny.
Yeah.
How do you get your clients as a leadership coach?
Primarily through social media, pretty much.
So what is put it up there? What is it? Is that it? Kenny Clutch?
Yeah, at Kenny Clutch is my social media pages. Pretty much any social media page, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. And look, what I do every day is give out inspiration, give out motivation, give out leadership tips and leadership, practical goals that people can actually do on a daily basis. And my main thing is leading people through adversity, which is what, I'm pretty much, I would say, an expert in throughout the course of my life. With Kristian, for those that don't know, Kristian was born with trisomy 21. And trisomy 21 is also another term for Down syndrome. And when he was born, he had a rare blood disorder, and that rare blood disorder had developed into leukemia about 14 months into his life. The story I oftentimes tell is how we found out. And throughout his first 14 months, he was, going to Cooper Hospital to get blood work done at least 2 or 3 times a week because they wanted to keep an eye on him. And when he was born, he had really, really low platelet counts, maybe about 15, 20 was his mark, and the doctors wanted him to be above 55 and rising as far as his platelets go. And he spent about 10 days into the NICU, and 14 months go by. This is like our new normal at the time. My wife and I, we have 4 children total, so 5 if you include the dog. But so this is we're new to being special needs parents. And at this point, we get to, I say, around 14 months into his life. It was around March, April, around this time where his hematologist, Dr. Hamed, had seen something in his blood that she didn't like. So she told us to go get a second opinion over at CHOP. And at this point, it was June 19th, 2018. Some dates you just never forget. We go in. And that was the time we were going to take our kids over to Dave & Buster's. We were going to celebrate because they did really, really well in school that year. And normally when we go in to get his blood work done, it'll take about 45 minutes and then we get to go home. And we thought it was going to be the same process, but 45 minutes turned into an hour and a half. An hour and a half turned into 3 hours. And then 3 hours turned into 32 days straight in the hospital. Oh. Yeah. So doctors come in and they had let us know that Kristian has AMKL, or AML, and I had no clue what that is. I had no clue what it was or anything like that. But oftentimes, what I tell people when tragedy strikes, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just remove yourself to improve yourself. And what I mean by that is I left the room so that I don't react in an emotional way. I left the room because my son didn't need me to be emotional. He needed me to be a leader. So at this point, I'm a believer. I'm a big believer in faith and everything. I prayed and got the answer that I needed. And I go back into my family, and before an ounce of chemo even hit his body, we prayed around Kristian. And the word that came to me was set the atmosphere. And for anybody that's listening right now, if you're going through something in your life, if you're going through any type of tragedy, whether or maybe you're not, maybe you're something in your family or your business or whatever the case may be, the one thing that I tell everyone to do is set the atmosphere, be a tone setter, right? Be a tone setter. So at this point, the doctors come in And before they even start, I say, Doc, listen, I need you to know that we're going to move forward as a team with a positive attitude. Okay. I get it. You guys are doctors. You guys got to do your jobs and everything. But at the same time, I need you guys to understand, you know, the type of vibe that we're in and type of circumstances that we're facing and everything right now. So I need you, your team, to always come into these rooms with a positive attitude. I don't care if you're a nurse, a doctor, a tech. I don't care if you're a tarantula. You come in here with a positive attitude, no matter what. Leave your personal issues outside the door. But when you come in here, even if you got bad news, bring it in a positive way. It matters how you deliver it.
Okay, Kenny, hold there. Stay right there, please.
For sure.
What was their reaction?
They were actually ecstatic about it. They understood, you know, our request. They understood what it is that where we were going. You know, I didn't have any bad vibe from the doctors from that standpoint when I said that. However, we did encounter a few doctors that didn't comply with what it is that what we were trying to do here. I'll tell you this story, Pat. There was a time during the 4th round where Kristian had this crazy cough, and we wanted to cancel out pneumonia because he had pneumonia the year before and it was undetectable. So we just wanted to cancel it out. And this is the head, you know, oncologist, head oncologist at CHOP at the time, where he didn't want to give us an X-ray, and we were just trying to cancel it out so we have peace of mind. Mind you, we're going through so much. You know, with our young baby going through, you know, cancer treatments and things of that nature, and then having to shut our dance studio down, having to change our entire life at this point, where he denied us 3 times. And my wife was pretty upset. And when the wife is upset, that means I'm going to be upset, right? So she gave me that look, do something or I will. So it was one of those moments where I pulled the doctor to the side, you know, outside of the room, and we just had a, you know, man-to-man conversation. I said, listen, doc, you're not the one that's got to be here 24/7 care for his son. You're not the one that has his other 3 children sleeping on the air mattress the entire summer at their grandmother's house. You're not the one that has to go back and forth and try and figure things out and shut his business down. You get to go home at night to your family. You get to ride home in your nice car and everything. I don't. I said, my wife down there in the hallway is very, very distraught right now. And I'd appreciate it, doc, if you give us the X-ray so that we can cancel out pneumonia and just have peace of mind. That's all I'm asking. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're right. I'll grant you the X-ray. My point of saying that is for anybody that gets a no and you feel in your gut that it should be a yes, fight for the yes. Never sit here and allow someone else's opinion when you know that it should be a yes. Now, did they find pneumonia? No, they did not. But the Broviac that was in my son's heart the entire time of his treatment, what they did find is that it was slipping out, and he started to develop a keloid around it, and it could have got infected even more and could have gave us a whole setback. Now, had I not fought for the yes, had I not fought for these things, then we probably would be in a different conversation and everything right now.
So, Kenny, not only set the atmosphere, but also go with your gut.
Yes.
You're giving us 2 rules, and that go with your gut was similar to what Dr. Seif had said, is ask questions. She encourages her patients to ask that tough question. If you're not comfortable with something, and you weren't comfortable,
no,
and you empowered yourself, you were the advocate for yourself and your family to ask. I think this is really powerful, a powerful message.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So keep on going. Let's hear some more of the Kenny Thomas story.
Yeah. So I'll backtrack a little bit. You know, when my son was diagnosed, we shut our dance studio down. We had a dance studio called the Level Dance Complex in Pennsauken, New Jersey, and at that we shut it down from working 6 days a week to working only 2 days a week at the studio, which shifted our finances, shifted everything. I mean, 1 in 4 families that end up with childhood cancer or facing childhood cancer, they lose about 40% or more of their income. We lost 65% of our income at the time. And from there, 32 days in the hospital, well, actually 7 days into the hospital, I decided to start dancing for my son. I figured if we're going to be in this hospital, we might as well do something fun. Now, remember earlier in the story, I said we didn't want any type of negativity, or we were going to remove things around if it didn't comply. So this is not necessarily a negative thing, but the doctors there, they brought in the musical therapist, and you know, Kristian does PT, OT, you know, to get his strength and things in that nature going. And they brought in a musical therapy session, and then they brought in these guys with ukuleles and stuff like that. Listen, I'm a hip hop guy, you know, I like old school funk music and stuff like that, R&B. So I just really wasn't with the ukulele. So I said, guys, listen, I'll take care of the musical therapy part, and you guys handle everything else. PT, OT, you guys got it. You know, anything with the medicine, that's all you. When it comes to this music here, let me do that. And I did that for, you know, a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted to continue to set that atmosphere for my son. Two, I wanted to make sure that my wife was okay as well, because a mother being away from her other three children is not easy. So if I could, you know, get the room to be as positive as possible, throughout the day, especially when you can't really go anywhere, then that's what I was going to do. So it was it turned into like a family thing. So I started dancing with Kristian, and when doctors said that he would be weak, he would be tired, he wouldn't want to eat, about 7 days in, my son sat up for the first time during his chemo by himself. My son then started bouncing up and down and started jamming, you know, to the music as soon as I started playing it. And immediately we were like shocked that he actually started moving like this. So we decided to do it daily. It became our father-son daily routine.
How long? How long was this session?
Sessions would be about 10 minutes, wouldn't be long, but by 10-minute sessions, we would do a couple songs, and then that would be it. But that would be enough for him to get moving and just to get his mind in a positive state. I oftentimes say this: when we change the mind, we change the game. And I say that because I read somewhere where 70% of illnesses start within the mind. So I believe that the combination between his positive mindset and, of course, the treatment that he was getting from the doctors at CHOP would be a great duo to get him healed, you know, at a much faster rate. Because doctors were saying that we were going to be in there 300 plus days fighting this cancer.
So, Kenny, now that you're from a hip hop dance instructor to a hospital music instructor, what did you learn? What did you learn from this musical therapy that you were directing for your son's health?
Yeah. So what I learned was that lyrics affect the mind, right? And the melody affects the emotions. Okay. And rhythm affects the will. All right.
Say that again.
So lyrics affect the mind. Okay. The rhythm affects the will, and the melody affects the emotions. Okay. So show me what a person is listening to, and I'll show you their lifestyle. So what I decided to do was create the lifestyle of positive change and positive music inside, you know, that hospital room and all throughout the hospital. And from there, I started seeing that people started enjoying it more and more and more as we started to post these things online, just to let everybody know that we was okay. And what I saw was that people would message me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and say that they wanted more of it because it got them through their day. Oh. And that's where things started to change for me, for real, because I'm like, okay, so now someone else is being healed from this. Someone else is being inspired by this. You know, well, what are people actually going through? And Pat, to be honest with you, it was a moment where there was a man that messaged me, and I'll never forget it. He said, if you didn't post this video, and the video was only 60 seconds, if you didn't post this video today, he said that he was going to check out. Whoa. And for that hit me kind of hard. And I'm like, wow, a 60-second video of a father and son dancing together saved someone's life. Well, how many other people are feeling this way is the next question that I had. So I started to move a little bit more and do them, you know, at least a couple of times a week, not just from my son, but for other people. So the message in that is, can you continue to serve even though you're going through a trying situation in your own? Can you continue to serve someone even though you're going through your own battles and your own storms in your life? you know, so I've learned how to dance through a storm.
So Kenny, oh, well said. Ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
How did you find serving helped your healing?
man, I love people, Pat, and I love seeing people win. And I really get excited when I see other people winning in life. I really, really do. And I've been like that all my life. I've worked with people, you know, thousands of people all across the world. And it just excites me to see that they're getting to another level. And I think that's what really fuels me, because I just want to see people get to the next level in their journey in their life. So I was excited at the fact that, number one, obviously my son was being feeling the positive vibes from this and being healed from it, and then my wife, and then other people that would come into the hospital room, janitors, people in the hospital. When I would walk in the hallway or walk in the cafeteria, they would be excited to see these videos, because it really, really, truly helped them, to where I started actually going to other hospital rooms and dancing with other patients as well too. So yeah,
Where is Kristian now? How is Kristian doing?
Kristian is now cancer free. He is
Yeah.
cancer free. He is cancer free. Yes, and he is awesome. We're still dancing till this day. As a matter of fact, we beat cancer in half the time projected. We actually beat cancer in 149 days, which really, like, talking to other experts, it's kind of crazy that it moves so quickly. Doctors expected him to be in a little bit longer, but he kept, after the first round, after we started dancing, every round after that, we were supposed to actually be in there 32 days or more, because doctors would say it would be a little bit longer every single time. But it actually started cutting in half every single time. It went from 17 days to 16 days to 15 days to 14 days. And boom, like, there was the scans were clear, the cancer was gone, like everything. Cancer was really good. He was actually in remission after his first round, but we went
And how
through
are you and your wife feeling at this time? Like, what were you experiencing?
I'm gonna be honest, Pat, it was a mixed emotions, a lot of mixed emotions that we were going through. So for my wife, it was more of a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and things in that nature. For me, it was more so the emotion of, I have a lot of weight on my shoulders, but I was reminded that I'm not called to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm called to walk in my greatness. And if I walk in my greatness in this world, right, then everything will be okay. Everything will line up. So just continue to be who I was born to be at the end of the day. And that comes from being a great leader and embracing, you know, my leadership. And at that moment, I knew that it was time to turn my leadership up to a whole nother level.
And how'd you do that?
Well, I did that by I started to study more. I started to push more in. I started to challenge myself. I started to study the greats, people like John Maxwell, my pastor Edgar Alvarez, Sam Chan. Like, I started to study people on another level of leadership. What did they do when they went through these trying situations? How did they get over it? And I would use their tactics and their tools and their strategies and implement that and apply that to my own family. And here's what I want everybody to get. It's one thing to learn something. It's another thing to apply it, and applying what you learn. Because oftentimes we learn these things and we're inspired by them, or we're motivated by them, but we don't actually apply it. And at this point, there was like no way out for me. My house was up for sale for 18 months. I was losing my studio. I had to shut my dance studio down to where I lost it, right? And my son was fighting cancer. So at this point, it's like sink or swim. Am I going to fold, or am I going to keep going? And I had to keep that positive mindset. I had to keep speaking to myself. When we change the mind, we change the game. When we change the mind, we change the game. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow will worry about itself. And today is all you have. And if today is all I have, what can I do today?
Amen.
I often say this, Pat, January 1st, 2022 will never happen again. Right? It'll never be seen ever again. Today is one of one. It'll never happen again. We have no idea what tomorrow brings, although we plan for it. but all we have is right now. So if I can focus on my right now and impact as many people as I can today, because I don't know what tomorrow may bring, right? Then I know that I'm doing my job. So I think in that moment, it was the catalyst of, Kenny, trading your career for your calling.
Kenny,
And
your calling is success. To me, the
yeah,
how in the now creates the
yeah,
wow. That's success. What
yes,
you're
sir.
preaching right now is really the epitome of success, not about fame and fortune and all that other baloney we see on television. You're talking, if only people would embrace your
Yes,
definition of success, this world would be so much more peaceful and
yes,
loving.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know, like I thrive on that. And I want people to understand that aspect of life. I really want people to look at life from a different perspective. And as I go through every single day, I try to provide a different way of thinking versus what everyone sees in the world every single day. Here you have my son, and I'll tell you this much. Here you have my son who was counted out from the beginning, where we were told to abort him because he would have Down syndrome. We were told that he would have brain defects. We were told that he would have heart defects. We were told that all these different things. And for some reason, I just said, number one, I don't believe in that. And number two, I just know that my son is going to be great. And here's what I want people to get. I want you guys to start using your gift to make the shift. And I'll explain what that means. Our hematologist had told us that because of this particular cancer that he has, it's oftentimes associated with kids that have Down syndrome. And his third chromosome of the 21st chromosome, like 21st chromosome, he has 3 copies of the same gene. That extra chromosome that Kristian carries was actually the catalyst to help him defeat this particular cancer. So he had an 80 to 90% survival rate because of that extra gene that was placed in his body from birth, right? Versus someone that doesn't have that extra gene, you know, they would have a 30 to 40% survival rate. So it was already implemented into him and already implanted that, listen, what you have inside you will get you to the next level. So get people to, so my mission is to help people and understand the potential that they have inside of themselves so that they can reach the next level in their life.
Okay, you teased us enough. You talked to us all about Kristian. We haven't seen him yet. And I heard that you dance, what, on a weekly, monthly basis to celebrate cancer-free. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. We celebrate him being cancer-free, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, but we do it often. And it's
we have a demonstration of your dance with Kristian. And how old
oh
is
yeah. Kristian is 4. He's going to be 5 in April.
Okay, Scotty, you have that dance? Bring it up. Let it roll.
Hey, Mufasa. Oh my God! You better kill it! You better kill it! Show me something!
Oh, that was great. Oh my goodness. You see him move?
Yeah, yeah, he loves it. He loves it. And he's getting better. He's getting better. Actually, I think he's on his way down.
Oh, beautiful. We'd love to see him. I'm going to bring Dr. Seif back on as well. Dr. Seif, why don't you join this family here? How cool was that, Alix?
Oh my gosh, his face just lit up the second you started dancing, and he's got moves.
Hello, Kristian.
Hi, Kristian. Hi, man.
Hi. Say hi.
Now, Dr. Seif, do you know Kenny?
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I don't know that we've ever met before, or it may be briefly in the hall. I do remember, I know I've seen Kristian rolling around in the, you know, when he was getting treated, I remember seeing him rolling around in the wagon.
Yes.
When was that, Kenny?
That was in 2018. We were in the hospital, and we would always roll him around in his red wagon.
So he was
Which
scheduled
means-
to be in the hospital for over 300 days, and you said you cut it in half.
Yeah, we cut it in half to 149.
Well, now that you have Dr. Seif sitting right next to you, do you have any questions for her?
Actually, I did have one question. Is so the projections, are they normally just a projection of like the days that children with Down syndrome or any type of leukemia, is it normally just a projection? Has it ever been anyone that have you seen going shorter than that, longer than that, like, or does it depend on the individual?
It's very individual dependent. So when we make our best guess, we're trying to manage expectations so that you can, know what to expect for your child, know what to expect for your work, all of this.
Right.
And we kind of quote you what we generally see. But some people end up getting out a little bit sooner. Some people are fortunate and don't have many complications. Some people are unfortunate and have bad complications and stay in much longer. But it's always good to hear that there are kids that are, sort of beating the expectations and getting out a little bit sooner and doing as well as Kristian did.
For sure.
We worry about this type of treatment in all kids and how intensive it is.
Right.
So it's great to see him looking as good as he does.
Dr. Seif, when you were watching not only Kristian and Kenny dance, but Kenny talk about his dance therapy sessions with Kristian, what was going through your mind?
Well, hearing your approach to the mindset being so important to getting you through the now of every day of that experience, I cannot agree more. I think, not everybody is blessed with that sort of inner ability to come up with that on their own. I wish we could bottle what you have inside and spread it around. And I would never blame anybody who is struggling to get to that mindset. I don't think that causes bad things to happen in the hospital, but there is something about people who are able to have that resilience, have that positive mindset, focus on, as you both said, focus on the now and grab onto positives and good opportunities and be grateful for positives. That just makes the whole experience so much easier on them.
Yeah.
And I wish we could give that to people.
Yeah. I think that, if it doesn't necessarily have to be dance, right? It could be almost anything. And what I try to encourage people is to find that inner thing. What is that thing that you enjoy the most? It could be painting, it could be music, it could be whatever it is, right? You can use whatever you have inside you, but I think the problem that we run into is that some people don't understand what they have inside them, right? So when they don't know exactly what it is that they have inside of them that they can use inside the hospital room, then that's where the discouragement may come, or they may start going through into those depressive states because they don't understand that. So I think that's kind of like the issue and where we run into, and this is kind of like why I push so much positivity on people every day, to enlighten them on, listen, it may be a tough time right now, it may be a storm right now, but the storm is going to pass, at some point in time. But it's hard when you see your child in the state that they're in, because you want to take their place. You wouldn't want your child to go through any of that. So I think, like, maybe this is just a suggestion, having a different type of support group when it comes to the mindset, at the hospitals, available for parents and stuff like that may be. I mean, I think I remember a time there was a woman. I was in the cafeteria at the hospital, and she was just going through the worst moment. Her son or daughter was fighting leukemia, and she was on the phone, and she was arguing with her family members as they were arguing on who's going to be doing what. And that's something that she just didn't need to go through at that moment. And normally I'd mind my own business, but something in me just said, you know what, just sit down and talk to this lady and give her some form of positivity, you know, during this time, because, you know, parents at the hospital, we kind of come together because we're all in the same fight. So I think that's highly encouraged, even if it's videos or things that we can give to the parents as when they get admitted into the hospital. I think things like that may even help a little bit.
Dr. Seif, can you add on to Kenny's suggestion? Is there something that you would recommend to parents and caregivers when they are in the hospital with their loved ones? Because CHOP, I used to bring the team. When I ran the Sixers, I would bring the team every year to CHOP. And I mean, it was heart-wrenching, like truly heart-wrenching. Then I'd have to drag Allen Iverson out of there because he never wanted to leave. I mean, here he's a kid into himself, and he sees all these other kids, but they were smiling. But is there some advice you can give caregivers to better handle the situations when they're in the hospital room?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, Kenny, as you point out, no one can understand the experience of having a child or a family member in the hospital with cancer like someone who is going through it. There's nobody else that can understand that. And I agree with you. I think connecting with other parents, other caregivers is key to your mental health. Just even having that shared experience, even if it doesn't make it, you know, you don't have a solution for X, Y, or Z problem, even acknowledging that someone else is going through something similar is healing and is supportive. And there are many, you know, parent groups at CHOP and outside of CHOP where parents can connect. I also think self-care, taking breaks, you know, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's a marathon and not a sprint. And if you're not supporting yourself, you are not going to be able to be there for your child. And that includes if you have friends or family that are not being supportive to you and are adding more stress than support, you have my support in saying, no, I cannot have this kind of stress added to me. And you are entitled to set boundaries with people that are adding toxicity.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, setting those boundaries are super, super important, and you can't be afraid to set those boundaries. And again, it's kind of like we set the boundary with the oncologist, the head oncologist at the time. And honestly, we had him removed off the team, you know, because we cannot have that type of attitude or energy around us. It's just not necessary, especially when you're trying to, you know, help your loved one get to the next level of good health. You just can't have that type of vibe around. So I think people have to stand firm on their foundation of what they know that they believe and how you're going to get to that next level. But again, yeah, like I think continuing to push the mindset, pushing support for that mindset and developing that is going to truly help so many. It's going to help not only the parents, but also going to help the individual that's actually fighting the battle themselves as well too. Getting them involved to see the end goal, right? Look at the end goal. Look at where we're going. Although it may be far from it, but look at where we're going right now. This is where we're at, and these are the milestones that we're going to hit. These are the goals we're going to hit along the way as well too. And continuing to do that every single day makes a huge difference. I tell a lot of my clients that, like, listen, we're not going to be where you want to be with you and your team, tomorrow. This may take 6 months. This may take 12 months, but let's focus on our goals for today, and let's knock it out the park.
We got to knock this out of the park right now. Kenneth Allen Thomas, thank you for joining us. Dr. Alix E, thank you for taking time out of your CHOP duties to be with us here at our Healed. I end every gathering with a prayer, a simple, non-petitionary prayer, just an attitude of gratitude. Kenny, you'll love this. Just thank you for the grace and helping me to welcome what is happening right now.
Amen.
Now. Thank you. Peace be with you. Thank you.
Allah.
Thank you.